Welcome to Connect Happy Valley, first ever sports segment. And we have Chris Buchignani.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me. What an inauspicious start to have me as your first guest on this segment, but I appreciate it.
I want you to be the host, but you could call yourself a guest.
Host. How's that?
Oh, there you go.
That's what I do best, fake hosting. Best way to jump in, I guess, is with both feet. And as you know, I love what you're doing with your site because you, like me, are almost foolishly in love with this place, with Penn State, with the Nittany Valley, with what it is to be in this wonderful little town in a central Pennsylvania valley that built up from cornfields and cow pastures around a land-grant university. Pretty awesome. And so when you asked me to come help you pilot this series, I thought, why not?
Well, and I wanted to put the Booch signal or the bat signal out in the sky to call you in because, yes, I am in love with Happy Valley. It's the greatest place to live, work, and play. But in the next month, sports and the draw of it for all of us to attend some amazing events. I asked you to come in and just talk quickly about the inflection point and the confluence of things that has these major events right here in our backyard.
So as you know, I have never left. Stepped foot on campus as a true freshman, summer of 1997, and I was in my happy place, so why leave, right? And there's this effect you experience if you do that, where in your early to mid-20s, first of all, you'll immediately feel old. You're 25 and you feel like you're ancient, like you're rolled in on a Conestoga wagon or something. But the other thing is you endure some mockery from your friends who you went to college with. What are you doing? Why are you still stuck in state college? Oh, you're still stuck in state college. I had to live with that for about 3, 4, 5 years. And then you start getting into your late 20s and you notice a switch. There's a pivot point where all of a sudden now these folks have been out in the real world a little while, gotten beaten up by life. They're coming back. They're sleeping on your couch and on your floor and in your guest room for football weekends, for blue-white. And what are you still doing here? Oh, are you still stuck in state college? That turns into, have you heard about any job openings? How'd you figure this out? What are the odds you think you could help me get back here? And I realized, as my friends from cities would come in, that it was not a bad place to be mocked for how little crime, pollution, and traffic there was where I lived. And one of the other benefits that I have found living here, as I think of it as a place that pivoted from what are you doing stuck there to how in the world can I get back to where you are, is that you have natural beauty, outdoor recreation everywhere you look. You've got all the intellectual and academic and scholarly stimulation you could want. You can see Broadway musicals that come through touring. You can see national acts at the Bryce Jordan Center. And you've got some of the best intercollegiate sports in the country. And you can get to and from your doorstep within 15 to 20 minutes. Even sometimes with the disastrous parking logistics that Penn State has from time to time. Nobody's perfect. And so obviously football is the main draw for that. I love football. I do a football show. I teach a Penn State football history class. So I'm all in on Penn State football. But the winter sports season is great. I don't know if there's ever been better, basketball notwithstanding, than it is right now. I mean, Cale Sanderson has built this incredible machine with Penn State wrestling. And I didn't know jack squat about collegiate wrestling 8 or 9 years ago. And it occurred to me that there was a John Wooden at UCLA level run happening a stone's throw from my doorstep. I better learn about this sport a little bit just so I can appreciate it and say I was there. And now there's just this unstoppable juggernaut. We got the number 1 team in the country again. We're coming off 2 years of record-setting national championship performances that may be exceeded again this year. And next season's lineup looks like it could be more dangerous than this year's. And on top of all that, we're hosting the Big Ten championships here at the Bryce Jordan Center, which is going to be one of the hottest tickets we've seen in town forever. But on top of it, it's Hockey Valley, right? We are the only university in America with top 5 programs in men's and women's hockey right now. In fact, Tessa Janicki, our star player, just became Penn State's first gold medal winning Winter Olympian with the women's team, who was 50% of Penn State's USA's gold medal sweep in the Olympics. So, between Gavin McKenna, who's going to be the number 1 pick in the NHL draft, and the 5th ranked men's team, the women's team ranked number 3 in the women's Frozen Four happening here, and even men's and women's lacrosse are off to good starts. The men's team has a really exciting young freshman goalie who's going to have his ups and downs. Obviously, you put a freshman into that position. Can you imagine being a lacrosse goalie, by the way? I can get you've got all the gear in net for hockey, right? You get the stick and the blocker and the pads and the glove. You're in that lacrosse goal and you're trying to stop that little, because it's smaller than a baseball and it's coming at you at high speed. So the kid's going to have some off days, but he's also going to do spectacular things, like when they just upset the 7th ranked team in the country, and you get to watch that growth arc over the course of the season. And softball's out of the gate super strong. I think that what Mike Gambino's doing with the baseball team is exciting. And as we get into the warmer months and they have those dollar hot dog days and they pack Medlar Field with undergrads, it's a really cool environment. And this is all 10 minutes from our door, Greg. And can you believe it? Pinch me, right?
And some of these are free. Like I think baseball's free, right?
Yes. The women's regular season in hockey is over, but those games are free. And a lot of the other tickets are pretty affordable once you get outside. Wrestling is its own universe. We have a crowd of passionate wrestling fans in central Pennsylvania, the Pack Rec Hall or even the Bryce Jordan Center when they wrestle in there.
And so the friends who mocked you back in your 20s,
yes,
are they going to be coming back for some of these upcoming events?
So already we had the outdoor hockey game at Beaver Stadium, and I was fascinated by some of the people who have not come up for a football game in 2 or 3 years, who came up for the outdoor Beaver Stadium game because of the novelty of it and because they're big hockey fans. I think a lot of people miss what a great hockey state Pennsylvania is, because there is such a passionate following for the Penguins and the Flyers. As a long-suffering Flyers fan, I can attest to what an accomplishment that is at this point, that people are still sticking with that stupid club, even though they stunk for years now. But it's a great hockey market. And so we got a lot of people back at the place for the men's hockey game. We are probably going to have more friends locally going to Big Tens for wrestling just because the tickets were so hard to get. We got a lot of inquiries, but it's a tough ticket. People back for the blue-white game, which we don't even know what that's going to be yet, but there's going to be a blue-white weekend, which is fine because the game was always immaterial to that anyway, right? The real reason to have blue-white was to just give everybody an excuse to tailgate in April and get, just a little oasis in the football desert. And so that's going to be cool. And I imagine that we are going to be able to twist some arms to get some friends up here for a weekend sometime between now, we're taping this at the end of February, and the end of the spring semester. And we'll drag them out to some of these events that they didn't even know were going on when they were in school here. But that's it. My wife and I are their connection back to Happy Valley, and which I love to be.
You mentioned hockey and wrestling.
Yeah.
Lacrosse, softball, and baseball. What about men's and women basketball? And the entertainment value of being able to sit so close to the floor at a fair price as an entertainment value-added option.
This is why you're a marketer, Greg. I could not have put a better spin on the current state of our men's and women's basketball programs than to tell everybody you can get great seats at very affordable prices.
And be right there in the middle of it, and you could be heard when you yell out some support. There's got to be some value to that.
I'm sure. I'll say this. I'm a long time season ticket holder for men's basketball, long time admirer and supporter of the women's program. I don't have my season tickets right now, but it has nothing to do with performance or the team or anything. I just, as you know, when your kid is at a certain age and they are a swimmer, that sport takes over their life. So that's pretty much it. I spend a lot of time at the pool.
Both of these coaches, men's and women's, are stand-up, solid coaches.
Love them.
Everybody does. And yet we're not supporting them or the team as a community, and we should be. And what is the plaque, if you will, or the blockage from us falling in love with their hero journey they're on? And yes, bumps and bruises. We have an athletic director that wants to win a national championship in every single sport, so you know they're under pressure.
Yeah.
Most people would think one or two might not be here next year. But as a fan here locally, like, how do we get into that story? And those players, some excellent players, lovable student athletes.
This is the eternal question with basketball, right? Now, I have always said that Penn State, which I can say no longer, was like the inverse of Indiana University, where I talked about being a season ticket holder. We would split our seats with a couple we're friends with who both did their undergrad at Indiana. In fact, the wife was there for the Bobby Knight chair game. Can you imagine being in the field house when that happened? It would have been awesome. But Indiana had the same issue. Huge land-grant university, great student body, great alumni base, a lot of passion for the school. Great at one of the two big revenue-generating intercollegiate sports, complete garbage forever in the other one, and just could not generate support around football. Now, of course, they fixed that problem in miraculous fashion, so there's always hope, I suppose. But as for Penn State, the dichotomy between the great support around football and where we're at with men's basketball, I think the answer to your question is twofold. First of all, there has been forever and a day a complete vacuum of culture around supporting men's basketball at Penn State, and that goes back to the middle of the 20th century when this was becoming big business, college sports, right? So it's tough to overcome, planting in a desert that's been around for 3/4 of a century. That's going to be a challenge for, frankly, anyone who comes and coaches the team here. And the money, the investment from the athletic department follows that, right? Because if there's no penalty from the fan base, from the customers, for not investing the finite resources of athletic department finances in basketball, then why should anyone do it? They're getting return on their investment for football. They're getting media money that's there, whether the team is first or 18th in the conference from men's basketball. And they're running at the black or very close to it with wrestling and hockey, where it goes to the kind of the final problem. People have limited time and limited entertainment dollars at their disposal that they're going to spend on live sports. And when you've got John Wooden at UCLA with Cale Sanderson and Penn State Wrestling, and you've got the number one pick in the NHL draft and superstar level performances with Guy Gadowski in men's hockey, in a sport that probably just because of the peculiarities of this region, both of those sports really probably have a more natural fan base than the sport of basketball. You're just paddling against the current when you're trying to chart a course for greater support for basketball. That's just my take on it.
Now, you mentioned Indiana and what they did with football. The blueprint to do that here in basketball is X number of dollars from NIL and donors. And
I don't even believe that. Rutgers last year made a tremendous investment in NIL. They had two of the best players in college basketball. They had Dylan Harper, son of one of my all-time favorites, NBA great Ron Harper, number 3 pick in the NBA draft. They didn't even make the tournament. And to me, that's probably a cautionary tale that Pat Kraft looks at and says, hey, right now, I've got great equilibrium going. I got people filling butts and seats in the Bryce Jordan Center for wrestling, in Pagula Ice Arena. Rec Hall is packed. I'm getting support at these Olympic sports venues, and things are going along pretty well because I need to pinch every available penny to meet the rising costs of maintaining a competitive football team. Why in the world would I invest any more into basketball when there is absolutely no punishment from my customer base for not doing so, when the risk is that I'll become Rutger. I'll come take the big swing and have nothing to show for it other than more red in the ledger.
And ticket sales aren't enough as a motive to fill the Bryce Jordan Center for basketball.
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, could you conceivably make considerably more if you had a consistently competitive men's basketball team? Yes, theoretically. But it's only possible, and it would take time, and the amount of money required to invest in building that up is probably not worth it to any AD, because I'll remind you that Cale Sanderson was not brought to Penn State by some stroke of genius or bold risk-taking by the athletic department. It was private donors who were sick of us being mediocre in wrestling who put the money in to pay his salary and bring him from Iowa State to Penn State. So the solution for basketball has always been some angel donor who just hates the fact that we stink in that sport. Heretofore, there's been no evidence that such a person exists.
And back to Indiana football, it was private donors that filled Mr. Signetti's ability to recruit talent?
No. Look, I mean, yes, for sure, Mark Cuban and others helped fill the NIL coffers. Every big land grant in America has a base of wealthy alumni who could kick in and help them field a more competitive roster. But really, the story of Indiana football is, I think, almost exclusively the story of Curt Cignetti, the Black Swan. It is that guy. It is his ability. It's his keenness of insight. It's his force of will. He is Lombardi or Belichick or Nick Saban. He's just that kind of unique character. And they just lucked out and hired him. You know, Penn State almost hired Rick Pitino back in the early 1980s. And if we had done that, that might have been a Curt Cignetti type hire that could have transformed the face of the basketball program. But it just didn't happen, and it hasn't happened yet.
Well, Jim Valvano, legend has it, interviewed for the basketball position and showed up in a big fur coat, and that didn't win over management at the time.
The moral of the story is that any time an Italian-American whose name ends in a long vowel sound interviews for a coaching position here, we should just hire them.
So what you're saying then for basketball, it's the man in the plan or the woman in the plan first, and then the Cubans and the donors follow, because even in baseball, men's baseball this spring, or women's basketball, you know, in my research, somebody once told me locally that if $800,000 was presenting themselves to Coach K, that we'd be in the Final Four in women's basketball. And I'm always saying, well, that seems like a low amount of money to get to the Final Four and fill the Jordan Center with a women's basketball. You would think fundraising could pull that off.
I mean, there's the finances of what return would you actually see if you were able to invest that money, because there is a cost. There's a dollar cost to raising that money. And one thing, as you know, Greg, you teach entrepreneurship here at Penn State. You've done that your entire life. The rule that applies to raising, private equity also applies to fundraising dollars anywhere else. You will always raise less than you think you should in twice as long as you believe it'll take. So there's that. And you have to find those donors who are willing to put that money in.
And wrestling found them.
Wrestling found them because Central Pennsylvania is one of a scattering of geographic regions across these United States where you can explain to someone that the event with the most attendance at your college basketball season during college basketball arena during college basketball season is a wrestling match, and it makes sense.
Hockey found the donor.
Hockey found the donor. And so you talk about the Indiana comparison. I think, truly, I believe this. I think Curt Cignetti is in league with dark forces. So you either need to find a Terry Pegula for men's basketball who is willing to make a 9-figure investment in the future of your program, or you need to find someone willing to mortgage their immortal soul. Those are the only two options. And, we're putting this out into the internet. And if either one of those individuals, or maybe both at the same time, is available, I would love to renew my season tickets.
Sold. Chris, this has been great. Anything else you want to say to the Connect Happy Valley subscribers to encourage them not to miss all of these wonderful opportunities for entertainment and they get closer to these wonderful athletes, especially like men's lacrosse? I hear going up there on a Saturday watching these young kids go against some major talent and competition. It's just a wonderful Saturday afternoon.
Oh, and Panzer Stadium's a terrific venue. It's so great. You've got Beaver Stadium on one side, you've got Mount Nittany on the other. You get there on a beautiful weather day, man, a lacrosse game is a great time, men's or women's. So I guess my point would be kind of going back to my decision to stick around and going through the transition of first being mocked and then mocked for only a few years and then envied for decades to follow. While I was in school, the great Steve Manuel, who many people know for his Penn State football photography, was teaching a PR class. And he used to refer to this area somewhat derisively, and yet he lives here and also as the good ship Lollipop. And so I thought to myself, if you are blessed enough to be one of the privileged passengers on the good ship Lollipop, maybe the best thing to do is to never disembark. You are on the good ship Lollipop. Don't take it for granted. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate your time and coaching and guidance us to
my pleasure.
Opportunities to have fun with a purpose. Thank you, Chris.
Subscribe to the Tangwell Film Network on YouTube.
Wonderful, wonderful entertainment on that podcast. I love watching you guys tee it up on your podcast. Thank you, Chris.